So you're after a Sea of Thieves game without the nonsense of PvP. You want exploration, survival, quests and crafting, but you don't want to be chased by a spotty teenager called Death to the Brits 2000 across the sea for no bloody apparent reason. So, is Salt 2 what you are looking for? Well, grab yourself a cuppa and let's find out. As is always the case, my lovely Cockney gang, I want to start by saying that this is an early access release. This means it has a lot of features missing, it's got a lot of bugs and quirks, and so this early review should not be the final judgment. However, my pedigree chums, they are asking for circa $20 for this game. So as always, my review score will be based on the state of the game and advise you lovely folks if it's worth spending your hard-earned cash on. Salt 2 then is a simple game. You start out as a pirate stuck on an island, and from there you find your way to a local seaport where quests are found. Now here you discover you can do all sorts of interesting things, from building your own boat, followed by some quests such as recovering a tool or killing a pirate captain, and finally doing a little bit of surviving along the way, such as crafting a load of nonsense. And this involves hunting down food and cooking it up where needed, or indeed mining so that you can craft some key items. It all seems rather wonderful, doesn't it, kids? Especially when I report that the world in question is procedurally generated, so potentially each new save profile is different. But hold your bloody horses, people, because Reggie is sad to report that once again there is early access games and then there are very early access games, and this one, it falls into the category of being the premature ejaculation early access game, where it promises so much but it results in one big disappointment. Now I hate shitting on little small indie developers like this because they have built something Reggie and the boys we could never dream of building, so fair play to them. But before you spend your $20 on this, just know what you've let yourself in for. Now let's start with the fundamental part of the game, which for me is of course the sailing part. This is the major draw of games like this, so let's go into the immersion breaking game mechanics, such as the ability to just plonk down your boat wherever the hell you like. Yes, people, you have the ability to put your big off boat into your pocket and then plonk it down again wherever you see fit. There is no dock to worry about here. There's no shallow water to contend with. There is no boat damage at all. In fact, there is no real mechanics behind even controlling your boat other than just to drop or raise a sail. But fear not, my lovely people, because you don't even need to consider wind direction or how to drop an anchor, as these things simply do not exist in Salt 2. But me, yes people, you can just jump off your boat like a maniac, but then reset it just simply by placing it down again in the water like some magical Greek water god. And all of these things for me are a major issue because Salt 2 sells itself on exploration. Reggie's argument here is that we need to get the boaty aspect of the game spot on and more challenging, because it's just devoid of any sort of challenge and it makes the experience feel empty. Salt 2 explains in its description on the store page that there's really no boat battles at sea, which for me is a miss. But if you're going to go down that path, and get your ducks in a row first and make sure that the exploration is spot on. Now I can only go by the roadmap they provided, but I don't see any mention of improving the sailing aspects, which I think is a big concern. Secondly comes the big sell of Salt 2, which is the survival part. Now the combat for me is just drab, and whilst it offers a block button against those little pirates, you can just power through each of them and enemies and just slash through them like they're butter with no issues at all. And unfortunately there's no real need to hunt for food, as you'll find it in abundance from the dead pirates you massacre, or indeed the amount of loot boxes that you find scattered throughout the place. So you immediately feel the combat and looting system is just too much in your favour, making it feel just easy and lacklustre. Likewise, you're given plenty of tools at your disposal, and there is something in here which is a great concept, but it just lacks execution and pretty much sums up how Salt 2 currently is. Now my main issue is around the old sextant, which is used to mark yourself on the map. This is a great feature and one that always bothered me about Sea of Thieves, where on those maps your boat just magically displays itself and moves around as you sail around the place. Here you have to continually mark yourself throughout to ensure that you are going in the right way, but sadly it's just a button press than it is a task. You grab it from your inventory, you press the left mouse button and it's magically marked. And so in fact it's just actually an extra step in the whole bloody process over something like Sea of Thieves, and therefore it offers no challenge other than to cause more needless work. However, I do find many of the systems promising. There is a night and day cycle which increases the hunger, and with that you can see our quests will slowly build up from what we have already. As mentioned, you can loot a ton of items, so exploration is key, and some items are categorized into the blue for rare items or green for those uncommon items, which gives a great addictive loot hunger need that is built into all of us gamers. Hopefully they can make the quest feel a bit more varied, and the roadmap does state a mainline quest at some point in development, which I think is rather promising, so keep up the good work, lads. Next comes the art style and indeed graphics. Now immediately you're going to see comparisons to Sea of Thieves here, as it's gone for that same kind of cartoony look, albeit a little bit boxier. I've no issue with that because they don't have the same resources that Rare does, of course, but that doesn't mean things have to feel just so empty, which again brings me back to the bloody boaty stuff. Ships, they are bare bones, and whilst you can decorate them with items, there's just something wrong with the art style here. Like the boats don't feel connected to the water, almost like they're gliding across the waves. Take a look here, for example. I feel the water line needs to be higher on the boat versus where it currently is showing on screen. In theory, the boat should be toppling about based on this. Likewise, there is no connection with the water to your boat, so there's no foam, you won't see waves crashing against it and whatnot. Instead, you just feel like you're navigating a kid's toy in a bloody bath. The water itself, it looks okay, nothing wrong with it, but you're going to find more life in the Queen's coffin. You won't have to worry about things like weather and the physics hitting your boat as you desperately try to control it against the elements. Likewise, I think the bloom is overdone with the sun, but hopefully that can be updated later down the line in the game settings with more options to tweak around. However, there is some nice sunsets in here, and overall I don't think it looks terrible, but I do think the physics and animations are really letting this down, and in particular it's the sailing bit once again which I feel is lacking. Sound, however, is a great start, and I have to say I found the musical score incredibly relaxing. When you sail over the seas into the sunsets, you're reminded of some of the beauty found in Sea of Thieves, which is no mean feat, and check out my review to explain why. Sound effects are basic, however, but I always feel in games such as early access ones as this, that is going to be part of the package, and hopefully as the game develops they'll be able to increase the richness on offer, so no major complaints from me here given its early state. So then, the premise of Salt 2 is grand and one I think can absolutely exist in the gaming world. Reggie is baffled we do not have more pirate games which is focused squarely on the single player aspect. We don't all want to be ravaged by Death to the Brits 2000 before our little tea time, but sadly Salt 2 is not ready for this world in its current state. It needs more time in the oven to get the key elements just right. I want a pirate game focused on exploration, and if that doesn't mean battling other ships, then no problem, boys and girls, but make sure you get everything else spot on. And here is the hardest part of all, because for just an extra $10 you can buy yourself Sea of Thieves, which in my eyes still has the great solo experience. And so for my money, if you want a solo pirate game, then maybe, well, just maybe that's where you all need to look. Now, love to you all. Reggie out.